To the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. I'm your host, John Sirenitas, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, John Sapichetti. Sap, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. And of course, the Patriots are returning home for the first time in a month when they host the Cleveland Browns this afternoon. And John, when you look at this game on paper, obviously your first thought is a game the Patriots should win, right? I mean, Cleveland comes in 2-5, rookie quarterback, struggling on offense, playing much better at home than they are on the road. But I do caution Patriot fans because looks can be deceiving. Despite this Cleveland team being 2-5, they've been in a lot of close games, and quite frankly, they've been in games that they could have won. This team could very easily also be 4-3 right now.
Without question, opening week, they lost to the Bengals by 1 point. They missed an extra point and a field goal. Probably should have won that game. They should have beaten Minnesota a couple weeks ago overseas. That would be 2 more wins. They beat the Packers at Cleveland, and they also beat Miami last week in a thrashing, 31-6. The problem is when they go on the road, they're a completely different team. They're being outscored 98-36 on the road and going 0-3. Now, they played Baltimore early in the season when Baltimore was whole and Baltimore was putting up 40 points per game against everyone. The Lions put 34 on the board against the Cleveland Browns, and then the Steelers beat them 23-9. So they lost to, at the time, quality opponents on the road. For some reason, the splits home and road are like startling to me. I've never really seen this in football other than maybe the Broncos when they were a decent team where they just dominated at home because of altitude and would go on the road and would be a different team. This almost feels like the Colorado Rockies in baseball where the splits are so pronounced between home and away. I don't get it. I normally try to find some explanation, excuse, theory. I can't have one here, especially when it comes to football, because home field advantage isn't as big as it used to be in the league, and yet it really is with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it's weird, and I don't even think it's a home thing. I just think it's football. It's the way football is, man, and that's why I think it's so uniquely different in many ways than the other sports in that it is the ultimate matchup sport, and it is the ultimate week-to-week sport. You know what I mean? And we're not talking about pitchers versus hitters and splits here. We're not talking about whatever analytics you want to use in basketball or hockey. Football is so different in that so many things factor into the outcome of a game on a week-to-week basis, whether it be personnel matchups, whether it be health, whether it be weather, whether it be location. There's so many things that come into play that determine the outcome of a football game. And I think when you look at this Cleveland team, again, to your point, this is a team that on paper, yes, their splits are interesting home and away, but quite frankly, this is a team on paper that should not be very good. I mean, look, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here. The Patriots are 5-2, currently the number 2 seed in the league. But on paper, they're a much better football team. They should win this game big. They should win by 3 scores plus. But again, I think when you look at this Cleveland team, it's that old tried and true recipe where they can run the football and they can play good defense, even though to your point, earlier in the season, they weren't playing very well defensively. They have been playing much better of late on defense. Jim Schwartz, longtime coordinator there, he'll have them ready. He does a lot of nice things schematically. You also have arguably the best defensive player in the game in Myles Garrett. So they're a funny team in the sense that they're 2-5, but the way they play, I think their style of play is what's going to make them a tough out on a week-to-week basis because they're competitive in an old school way. They lean on their running game. They throw high percentage passes, and their defense keeps them in games. And I think that's the conundrum for the Patriots today. If you don't get off to a fast start here and put pressure on Kevin Stefanski in terms of his play calling and put pressure on Dylan Gabriel and make them have to play catch-up, you're going to be in a much tighter game than you want come the fourth quarter.
And that has been an issue with the Patriots. Slow starts, right? Even last week, slow start against the Titans.
Especially
great second half on defense. Yeah, it seems like every time the opposition, their first possession ends in either a field goal or a touchdown. It did it in New Orleans. Buffalo was a different situation with 6-3 at the half, but they've had trouble early in games. Go back to the Pittsburgh game. The Steelers scored 2 touchdowns in their first 2 possessions, and then the Patriots dominated for 2.5 quarters, but it wasn't enough to make that comeback full. Cleveland is going to rely on that run game, and they're going to try to really shorten the game, right? I mean, they're going to want to have these 9, 10, 11, 12 play drives that kill clock, that maybe result in a field goal, and then you bring that defense out again. And again, I'm in agreement with you. Myles Garrett, to me, is the best defensive player in football. He can wreck any team's offensive scheme. He's that good because they also move him around. He just doesn't line up at one spot. They'll move him along that defensive line. He is just going to be a pain in the butt to try to block this weekend or today against the Patriots. And you look at Will Campbell. This is going to be his biggest challenge whenever he goes mano a mano against Myles Garrett.
Adam J. Glaze checks in. Good morning. Good day for a Browns beating. Are you, Adam, are you saying that the Browns are going to beat the Patriots? I'm assuming you're saying Patriots are going to beat the Browns. We'll see. Nonetheless, thanks for checking in, brother. Appreciate it on this Sunday morning. Yeah, I have a different view on Myles Garrett. I do think he's overrated. I'm not the biggest Myles Garrett guy. I don't think he impacts a game as much as people think he does. Look, any defensive player, if you allow them to impact the game, they will. It's how you scheme them, how you game plan them, I should say, and ultimately how you match up. And look, he can be a problem, and he's going to be a problem at various points in the game. But, and I'm talking about this in my game plan, which is going to be published here before the game. For me, I run at him. You got guys like that, you got to make them work. You got to make them earn it. I would run at him. And although Cleveland's run defense is stout, and they've been really good all year, and we all know how tough it's been for the Patriots to run the football this season, I would run at him, John. I would make him work for it. I wouldn't just let him get into that sprinter stance and tee off. I think if you do that, yeah, Will Campbell's going to have a long day at the office. But I think if you can run at him, you can kick him out, you can crack on him, you can do a couple things to soften him up. I think it's going to, any player, I don't care who it is, and I don't care how long they've been in the league, they're going to think about it. So make them work for it. Now, to your point, yes, if Will Campbell has a tough day, he's going to wreck their offensive game plan. If nothing else, he's going to command a lot of attention. We know that. But I think a player like that, see, my issue with Garrett is I don't think he's this explosive finisher. Those are the guys that concern me as pass rushers. Those guys that can get in that wide five, get into that sprinter stance, and just beat guys on the snap. That's not Garrett. Garrett's a speed to power guy. Mm-hmm. And if Will Campbell, and he's going to have trouble with him because this is where you could see the short arms being a problem today because of Garrett's length. But again, if I'm the Patriots, my game plan is to run at him early, see if we can soften him up. Obviously, he's going to command a lot of attention in pass protection, but he's not a guy that's going to beat you with speed and bend. And I think that's the only positive here. He's a guy that wins one-on-one matchups. If you help Campbell, Patriots should be fine.
The Patriots have always done a really good job, especially with Belichick, Dante Scarnecchia, and Tom Brady. They did a good job on many fronts, but what they always were able to do was really to contain those great pass rushers, right? Whether it was Dwight Freeney and Robert Mathis with the Colts, or J.J. Watt with Houston, and other than really Von Miller at Denver, they basically contained a lot of those great defensive linemen. What were they able to do that? Obviously, having the greatest quarterback ever, seeing what's going on at the line of scrimmage does help quite a bit. But it was also a game plan that they put together that they knew that they weren't going to let that guy beat them.
Well, I think a lot of it, too, is perimeter screens, getting the ball out quick. When you're playing against a guy that's that good and a pass rush that's pretty good like Cleveland's, you got to get the ball out. And so I think you'll see a heavy emphasis today on perimeter screens, now screens, slip screens. You might see some SPOs and RPOs. I think you're going to see them also get the ball out quick in the passing game. Quick three-step, quick five. I think when they get into plus territory, this Cleveland secondary, I do think is susceptible to giving up big plays. So I think you're going to see them take more shots down the field potentially in plus territory. And I think you're going to see some play action here because what it does is it allows you to slide your protection to Garrett, and you can use more 6- and 7-man protections, especially out of two-backs. So I think you're going to see a lot of that stuff from Josh today. I think he's going to do a bunch of different things to protect May and get the ball out quick. But I think that's going to be the emphasis here. The other thing I would do is I would use a fair amount of empty formations today because let's spread them out, get them in a nickel and dime, get them into their sub packages. Let's isolate him to where we can throw quick stuff and he can't get to May. As long as Will Campbell gets a piece of him, we'll be able to get the ball out quick enough and empty that he won't be as much of a factor. So this is where football is the ultimate coach's sport. I mean, honestly, John, I've said this for years. I've coached other sports. They're child's play compared to football when it comes to coaching. The possibilities are infinite. And I think Josh McDaniels is going to have a lot that he could do today. But again, so much of the focus is going to be on Myles Garrett. Adam checks back in. We are going to stop the run. High-flying offense. Game over. Just hold on to the damn ball. I agree. That's always the key with the Patriots. He also goes on to say Patriots W, and he says the smallest production in the run opens up play action. Couldn't agree with you more, man. That's a great point. I agree, and as I just said, and here's the thing, and John, you had asked me this last week. Yes, you ideally you want to establish that running game so that it makes your play action more realistic and effective. And to Adam's point, I agree. If they can run the football with some semblance of success early in this game, I think it's going to really help their passing game, specifically their play action passing game.
And it doesn't have to be the 1993 Dallas Cowboys, right? Or the Eagles from a year ago with Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's the highest level of a run game you can see. But at least it can be consistent. If you can get 4 yards a carry and you're able to have 30 carries, that's going to set up your passing attack so much better than if you don't have that, right? Because the quarterback can get under center. The defensive linemen just are not able to pin their ears back and come after the quarterback because Cleveland not only has Myles Garrett, they also have Mason Graham, who is a burgeoning star. I mean, he was a high draft pick, and he looks like he's going to be a stud himself. So they have a couple of defensive linemen that can cause some problems as well. If the Patriots stick to that run, even if it's 3.5, 4 yards per carry, it's good enough to set up play action and open up the entire offense rather than having Drake May in the gun the entire time and people teeing off on him thinking he's going to throw 50 passes. That doesn't work all the time, or it doesn't work that often, to be quite frankly honest. So I think that what they can do on offense is the attack that they're going to use really going forward. Now, last week it was a home run. They ran for 175 yards against Tennessee, and that just opened up everything. The offense looked as good as it's ever looked. Drake May only had 2 incompletions. So that's the optimum. But just stick with that run game. Make sure that you're able to move the chains and have that entire offense open because of the run game.
Yeah, and again, I think, look, you mentioned Mason Graham. That's going to be the challenge here today for them offensively is how do you handle that front? You still have Denzel Ward on the back end. You still have Grant Delpit, who's active. He can play over the top in single high, and he can be effective going from the hash to the sideline and too high. But it's really about how do you deal with that front, specifically that defensive line. That's going to be the challenge today. This is going to be one of the tougher matchups of the season for the Patriots offensive line. They're going to have their hands full with this group. They're active. They can play up the field. They can reset the line of scrimmage. And again, I think if you're the Patriots, yes, ideally it would be nice to get that running game going. But I think when you look at this Cleveland team from a strength standpoint, running the football and stopping the run has been the reason why they've been so competitive the last 4 weeks. I think that those are 2 areas that if you're the Patriots, you need to win those matchups today. Because if you do, then you're going to be in a pretty good position to win this game. But if you struggle in those areas, you're going to be in a much tougher game than you wanted or anticipated. And I think that's going to be a key point today. Now, on the other side of the ball, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, we've talked about this ad nauseum really the last few weeks. And that's this Patriots defense giving up opening drive scores and getting off to slow starts. It shouldn't happen today in theory against this offense, which is not very good. But again, as we've seen, John, for whatever reason, coaches have had success on opening drives or in the first quarter against this Patriots defense, running the stuff they installed that week, executing it, and scoring points. And if you're Mike Vrabel and this defensive staff, you've got to figure out a way to get those early stops. Now, it hasn't hurt them the last 4 weeks, but as you get into the rest of the season, as you start to play these tougher games, it could potentially hurt them falling behind early and now having to play catch up the rest of the game and possibly lose it.
Depending who's playing in those games, right? I mean, you can get behind New Orleans, Tennessee, you can get behind those teams and make a comeback because those teams can't really sustain enough offense to keep up with you. But if you're playing down the road, Buffalo, you play them once again. You play Tampa in a couple of weeks. Atlanta, the most mercurial team in the league, is coming to town next week. If you get behind those teams can now start matching you score for score. And now you're in one of those games where you'd never catch up. So obviously it's very important to get that first stop on defense, because after that, it seems like the defense has been outstanding. They're one of the toughest, if not the toughest team to run against in the NFL. They really are. I mean, teams have not been able to run the football against the Patriots. We know that if their secondary's healthy, they're going to be solid back there. So where else do you go to try to move the ball against the Patriots? So absolutely, get off the field. Don't even allow a field goal. I mean, I'm looking for the perfect situation. Take a lead, and I can't see Cleveland coming from behind because they're not built that way at all.
No, they're not. They're going to lean on Quinshon Judkins, their rookie running back from Ohio State. He's the emphasis of their running game. And I think, look, when you look at him statistically, he's been really good for them. And he's averaging just north of 75 yards a game, but it's really his contact balance and what he does after he secures the ball. He's really hard to tackle. He's one of the toughest backs in the league to tackle on first contact. He's a guy that's amongst the league leaders in yards after contact at 4 yards a carry. So he's a guy that's going to be a problem if your run fits aren't on point today. If your linebackers aren't making their reads, getting into their run fits, stacking and shedding blocks and making tackles, you're in trouble. If your defensive line can't reset the line of scrimmage and make them have to play on their side of the ball, you're in trouble. If your safeties aren't running the alley and filling, potentially, you could be in trouble. And where you could be in trouble is, look, the thing about Dillon Gabriel is Stefanski's done a really nice job of managing him, John. He hasn't put him in a position where he's necessarily hurting them. He's only thrown 3 touchdown passes, doesn't have a pick yet, left-handed quarterback. He's playing smart. A hallmark of this offense, and we saw some of this stuff last year when Van Pelt was here, is moving the pocket for the quarterback, a lot of naked boots, getting him out on the perimeter, giving him that run-pass option, layering routes for him so it's an easy read. You can bail him out with something in front of him right now. They've done a really nice job managing this kid. I mean, look, I know a lot of people – Dillon Gabriel played a lot of football in college, and I know a lot of people liked him. He was a winner. He played in a lot of big games, but physically he is not a long-term answer at the position for them. I don't care what they say. I know a lot of people will tell you that they see some Steve Young in his game, and I think that might be a decent comp. He's not the athlete Young was, but I mean, again, I think Cleveland's done a really nice job protecting him and getting about as much as they can get out of him. But I think if you're the Patriots here, to your point, if you could score early, get up by 2 scores even if it's 10-0, make them have to get away from the running game, make them have to start throwing the ball, especially on medium down situations. And I think if you do that, you can take control of the game and it can get away from them pretty quickly. But if you're letting them hang around, you give up that early score. Let's say you give up a touchdown within the first 2 possessions, and now they're in it and they're confident and they're feeling pretty good about themselves. You're going to have a fight on your hands.
Yeah, then they're running the football and they might be effective at it. And oh, by the way, you're down 10, 14 points and Myles Garrett's unleashed. That's where he really becomes a problem. What I wanted to look at also, John, was as we talk about certain matchups in the NFL, how much of an advantage do the Patriots have that Mike Vrabel actually coached in Cleveland a year ago? And he coached both sides of the ball. In fact, even some special teams. He went there as going into a think tank to make himself a better coach. And I give him a ton of credit for that. How much of an advantage do the Patriots have with that?
I mean, he's got some institutional knowledge for sure, obviously, but I don't know how much of an advantage it is. And the only reason I say that is because, again, I think the Patriots are the better football team. I think that's where your advantage is. He'll have some institutional knowledge, especially their offense. I'm sure that he and Zach Kerr had some conversations this week about how to approach the plan. They probably have had these conversations for over a week now about how to approach the plan. How do we handle their naked bootleg game? What fronts we want to run against this running game, especially because Judkins is a strong back, a bigger back, a guy that can push the pile and pick up positive yards. So I think you're going to see some under and eagle fronts out of them today as they try to give themselves, a stouter front against him, more 5-man fronts. You're going to see, them in a lot of 8-man fronts where they're either going to screw the safety down late to get into that 8-man box or they'll break the huddle in an 8-man box. I think you'll see some of that from them today, especially on first down, second and short, third and short, because I think you have to. I mean, again, I think that if you allow this team to establish that running game, establish their play action and boot game, they're going to be able to move the ball and potentially score some points. So I think, yeah, he has some institutional knowledge, but I don't know if it ultimately matters in this game. You're better if you come to play and you're fundamentally clean. Don't turn the ball over. You should win.
That's the key to all these things is turnovers, and that's what the Patriots have been winning the battle the last 4 games. I mean, they had their big turnover game against the Steelers in week 3. They lost 21-14 in a game that I thought they were the better team, and since then, they've been pretty much airtight in terms of taking care of the football.
Yeah. No, they have. And look, that's been the difference, right? I mean, everybody and their mother talked about this offseason, that the number one thing you needed to do, and John Lyons and I talked a lot about this, probably more than anybody else. The number one thing you need to do is take care of the turnovers with him. He's got to learn to play smart and protect the ball. And if he does that, the physical tools are there. He will thrive in McDaniels' offense as long as he's making good decisions, he's accurate, and taking care of the football. He's done all of those things the last 4 weeks. And as long as he continues to do that, the Patriots will be fine offensively. It's when he starts to freelance. And he started to do that a little bit last week. I'm not going to lie to you, John. It was a little concerning to me how quickly he was putting the ball down again and taking off. He was susceptible to body blows, not protecting himself, sliding late. We can't go back to that stuff. He's got to learn to play smarter. And so my hope is, even with Myles Garrett, Mason Graham in that front this week, my hope is that he does that today, that he plays smarter, because ultimately that's going to be the key for the Patriots moving forward. And this is going to be a big part of his development too, is not only taking care of the ball, but taking care of himself as well.
We've seen the concussion issues, and Lord knows maybe he suffered another concussion last week against Tennessee, winning the blue tent for a moment. Got to take care of yourself, because here's a guy who plays aggressively, right? You compared him a little bit to Brett Favre, a little bit off the field too, the way he's kind of the aw shucks, good guy that his teammates seem to really like, and just seems like an approachable guy, really good kid. And on the field, sometimes he plays a little like Brett Favre, gets a little risky out there, has a little cowboy in him, but he's really kind of reined that in the last 6 games, done a good job of it. But sometimes that cowboy sneaks out. That's just his nature, right? As far as him running with the football, he had 62 yards last week running the football. Now, most of them were on broken plays, not necessarily on design plays. I know you're not a huge fan of designing plays for him to run, because that can lead to injuries, right? I mean, they do that in Buffalo with Josh Allen because he's like, a unicorn. He's a freaking Superman. But you want to do that
Even
less
they're
and
not
less.
doing it that much.
Not as much, no.
Baltimore probably does it more than they do.
More than anyone, because obviously Lamar's
but even they have backed off on that, because, again, this isn't college football, where being a dual-threat quarterback has more value than it does in the NFL. You still want your quarterback to be a passer first, and you got to protect him. And he's got to learn to protect himself. And I've never, and you mentioned this, I mean, I've never bought into the idea that you're not going to run quarterback power with Drake May. You're not going to do all of these things. I just don't think that's best for the kid. I think you got to protect him. It's one thing if he can read it and pull it, you can run RPOs with him. But this idea that you're gonna run him in A gap or B gap and have him stick his face in there, unless it's a quarterback sneak, I don't want to see him anywhere near those 2 gaps as a runner.
No, absolutely not. He's too valuable. We've just seen, again, I've been watching football for a long time, John. I don't recall a player getting this much better this quickly. Like, it's not just the numbers. We can look at the numbers and go, he's on a heater. Yeah, you get 6 straight games with a passer rating over 100. His footwork is superb. His pocket presence is superb. His accuracy is superb. He's like grasping everything he needs to do. It's truly amazing. We'd have to go back probably to Josh Allen. His rookie year was kind of uneven. Didn't look like an accurate passer. Looked like he didn't really know how to play the position. Early in the second year, he continued that on, but then he started to get better. But not at this level. This guy's an MVP candidate in the second year. Josh Allen was not an MVP candidate until his 3rd year. I've never seen a quarterback grow this much, this quickly.
2 words for you: Josh McDaniels.
I'm with you. I am.
I don't care what anybody says. And you know what? I know Lyons and I jocked that hiring all offseason, and I get it. I know my good buddy Joe Murray hated it, and I know a lot of other people didn't like it either. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I don't want, if I want to say Joe hated it. He didn't like it. Let's put it that way. Hated it might be strong. But I loved it. This is why I love it. I don't give 2 shits what he did in Denver and Vegas. I really don't. I don't care. At the end of the day, When I judge Josh McDaniels, I judge him by his body of work here. And I go back to 2008 and the job he did with Matt Castle, where he turned him into a starting quarterback in this league who got paid. I go back to 2016 and I look at what he did with Jimmy Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett in helping the Patriots go 3-1 during Brady's suspension. I go back to 2021 and I look at what he did with Mac Jones. And by the way, look at what Kyle Shanahan is doing with Mac Jones now. Mac Jones can play. He's not a top 10 elite level quarterback in this league, but he's a guy that if you have a really good team around him, you can win with him, and we're seeing it this year. So for me, it's Josh. Josh plays a big part in this, in my opinion. And I'm not saying, look, Drake May, I said this to you at the beginning of the year, Drake May is a top 10 quarterback in this league physically, okay?
Yes.
That's why I loved him coming out of North Carolina, because I felt that if he can end up in the right situation with the right offensive coordinator who can harness those physical tools, the kid's a top 10 quarterback in this league, and he's a franchise quarterback. Now, again, these conversations can be redundant because you could say this about anybody. But I think a big part of the reason why he has been on this expedited track in terms of his development is Josh. It's Josh. It's the system. It's a quarterback-friendly system. It's a multiple offense where you can do a lot of different things on a week-to-week basis. It's a quarterback-friendly system where you can get the ball out of his hands quick. You can do a lot of different things in this offense that you can't do in some of these other offenses because they're so handcuffed by their philosophy and their system, some of these coaches. Josh isn't like that. McDaniels will do what it takes to win. They're a game plan specific offense. They always have been. They always will be. That's the beauty of this system. And I think that's a big reason why May's thriving.
Without question. I mean, he's playing in a much more comfortable system. It is quarterback friendly because it's multiple. There's so many different ways you can answer the tough questions. Tom Brady said this.
By the way, you saw that last week, right? They come out against Tennessee. Here we are talking about their struggles in the run game.
Right.
They come out against Tennessee last week and they pound it.
Absolutely.
They pound it. They're like, you know what? We're going to set a physical tone here. We're going to run the football. We know that they have good players up front. We know they have Jeffrey Simmons. It doesn't matter. We're going to line up and we're going to make a concerted effort in the first 15 to run that football, and they did.
And you know my philosophy on running the football, John. You may differ on this because you're an offensive line coach, but obviously talent matters, scheme matters, all of that matters. But there does come a point where the offensive line has to physically try to dominate the defensive line. They may not always be able to do it, but they've got to attempt to do that. It's got to be man on man, hat on hat, where, you know, you just win that physical battle and win the battle of wilts. I mean, again, blocking Myles Garrett for half the game doesn't seem like a really good thing to do, nor does it seem a good thing to do to try to block Aiden Hutchinson. That guy looks like an incredible player that's impossible to block. But if you can get physical with them, maybe get them back on their heels, now you can start to play. I think a lot of it is a mindset. And look, Tom Brady said it, I believe, 7 or 8 years ago. He said if Aaron Rodgers played in this offense, he'd throw for 6,000 yards. Now, that might be hyperbolic, but that is coming from the greatest quarterback of all time, saying fellow quarterback who essentially around the same age would flourish so much in that offense. It is so quarterback friendly because they get rid of the ball quickly, protect the quarterback, and it's multiple. So you could do so many different things out of that offense that, quite frankly, the other offenses don't. They're hamstrung by being so specific.
Yeah. And again, other systems have advantages. You know, you look at the modern West Coast offense, you could do a lot with motion and shifting and there's different variations of that. And they've incorporated a lot of that system into this system. So, and you've seen it. You saw it a couple of weeks ago on Pop Douglas's touchdown pass. That's a staple 2-man route concept in the modern West Coast offense. So, I mean, again, I think that's a big part of it. Josh just knows how to develop quarterbacks. Can't do it as a head coach. He didn't do it with Tebow. He didn't do it with Aiden O'Connell in Vegas. He couldn't develop a quarterback there. But I think if he's the offensive coordinator, he doesn't have to worry about the other aspects of being a football coach that come with being a head coach. He's going to develop your quarterback, and you're going to have success offensively.
Well, Kyle Orton, Tim Tebow, Derek Carr, Aiden O'Connell. I mean, Derek Carr had more talent than the rest of them, but I never thought of him as an elite quarterback. Now he's got a guy with elite skill set in Drake May, and he had the greatest quarterback in the history of football, Tom Brady, who he helped develop. I mean, Tom Brady got to another level with Josh
quick
McDaniels.
To say he had Tom. Yeah, to your point, way too many people quick to say he had Tom Brady. He helped Tom Brady. Tom Brady himself would tell you that.
Absolutely. I mean, '01 to '04, Brady was a great quarterback. He was already in the discussion as the best quarterback in football because the man won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. But then in 2005, Josh McDaniels took over that offense, and it got better. I mean, look at 2007. Of course, prime Brady, prime Randy Moss. You're going to do a lot of damage against defenses. But no, he's perfect for a young quarterback that wants to learn and can get put in positions where he's going to thrive. I don't know if he'll ever be a head coach again. I'm not sure if that's on the table at
I
the
think
NFL level. I'm not
yeah.
sure.
You know, John, I thought the same thing this offseason, but given the job he's done with this kid, that this is a league that owners want to win.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care what he did in Denver and Vegas. If they think he can develop a young quarterback, and he's certainly young enough where he can get a third shot here, if they think he can develop a young quarterback and they think he can help them win, and again, the key words there are they think. It doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks. All it takes is one owner thinking that, and he will get another shot. And I'm telling you, and I said this to you last week, I think he's going to be in play for a couple of these college openings, man. I really do. I really do. And if you're him, if you're willing to relocate, and again, he loves living here, his family loves living here. I don't think he wants to do that right now. But if the right college opening comes up and they're willing to cut him the kind of check that it's going to take to get him, I would not be surprised if he's one and done or two and done and he's a head coach again. I'm telling you, man, you know how it is. It's what have you done for me lately? ADs, owners, all they look at, they live in the moment. They're prisoners of the moment. And they're going to be willing to give him another chance if they think he can turn their program around.
I have the perfect spot for him. Cincinnati. With my man Joe Burrow, I think that would be an incredible combination.
But that's because you jock breaks down easy Burrow, and you think
he doesn't break down easy.
He's not Tom Brady. He's never going to be Tom Brady.
No one is.
He's never going to be able to stay healthy. He's always going to be a could have been.
Nope, he will be healthy for the rest of his career once he gets in a system that helps protect him. My point being that would be the case with Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, you know what the Bengals should do is play with 9 guys up front and only put one receiver out and have one
That's an option.
Maybe that'll help.
Well, if it's Jamar Chase, that might work.
Yeah.
1-on-4, they could find him. No, but I think that would be a perfect situation for him, don't you think? I mean, a great quarterback who needs to be protected and maybe needs to be developed a little bit more. I mean, at least he would be going to a place with a great quarterback. He's from that state, but they don't make any moves there. They're going to continue on with Zach
Taylor. But they're in playoff contention without him, though. Zach Taylor's not the problem there. So I haven't seen them making a change. Why would you?
They've won 1 game since Burrow got injured, so it's not.
I understand that, but they're in playoff contention.
Oh, they are, and look, if Joe Flacco continues to play like this, they might be right there because that division's garbage, right? Okay. Lamar Jackson's not playing today. Baltimore's 1-5. Pittsburgh's 4-2, but we saw them be dominated by the Patriots here. Cleveland has a really good defense. No, they could still be in contention, and he comes back late in the season. They get to the playoffs and be dangerous. I just want the best for my favorite quarterback. That's all.
I don't like to talk about coaches and being fired and their future and everything else. The team that's coming to town today, they could be a possibility. I'm telling you, man, that's an owner who's mercurial enough.
Yes.
Who flies off the handle. He's shown a lot of patience here with Stefanski. But if they decide, and again, I'm not advocating for this, if they decide to make a change, that's an organization to keep an eye on. I don't buy this idea, given the job he's done with this kid. I don't buy the idea that he's not going to get another shot. I think if he wants it, he's going to get it.
The structure would have to be different, right? Because he had a lot of power in Denver and a lot of power in Vegas. So maybe you have to pair him up with a general manager who is going to be able to really work on the roster. And then Josh is going to be able to coach. Obviously have some say in the roster. All coaches do, but not have complete control of the roster. Let him coach and do what he does best.
Yeah. And the other part of it is, man, look, you can talk to any coach at any level of football. They will tell you if they get their second and third job, you change. You're not the same guy you were the first time, the second time. You're not. You're going to be a different guy. So if he wants the opportunity, and B, if he gets it, I think he's going to be a different guy. I really do. I think he's going to be a different guy because you learn, right? It's like being a human being. Life is an experience, and you learn from different things that happen to you in life, or at least you hope you learn. I think that's the case here as well. So we'll see. I mean, we don't also want to turn this into the Josh McDaniels speculation show, but we'll see. All right, good friend of our shows. You know who it is, the mighty Ken Matthias. Do you think after this season, Josh McDaniels jumps ship and goes back into the coaching carousel? So Ken is always like, just to quote Bob Uecker, just a bit outside when it comes to the timing of some of his questions and what we're talking about. But good timing here, my friend. Yeah, we just talked about that. I do. I think given the job he's done with Drake, absolutely. I think if May continues on this path, they have a really good year. His name will come up in openings. You'll have, Adam Schefter will be out there, according to my sources, or Ian Rappaport will be out there. Sources told me, you know what I mean? He's going to be out there. His name's going to be out there. It is, because here's the thing. There aren't enough quality candidates in any cycle. These owners are desperately looking to find someone outside of the traditional list that's going to come up as we go into December and January. They want to think outside the box. They want to be the owner that made the hire that no one saw coming. But he'll be in the running. He'll be in the running. I 100% believe that. What are 3 keys to the game today for the Patriots, John? What are your 3 keys to the game today for the Patriots?
Getting out to an early lead, which they haven't been able to do the last 2 weeks against inferior opponents. Even if they get behind, they probably can still win because, again, Cleveland's not built to come from behind. But if you get ahead, you can kind of stop Myles Garrett or contain him a little bit on the pass rush. I think that's very important. Containing the Browns' run game, because if they're not able to run the football, I have no clue how they're going to move the football because they're not a very advanced passing team with Dylan Gabriel at the helm. And also the other thing is just in terms of turnovers, that is always a factor. It's not earth-shattering to say that turnovers are a key. But again, they've been taking care of the football, so that's been able to have control of where they're starting their drives, where the opponents are starting their drives, and you go, mano a mano, and you're the better team, you should be able to win. So I think those are pretty much 3 of the keys.
Ken checks back in. If he does jump ship, who could fill in? Would it be Thomas Brown or outside the organization? I don't know, man. It's way too early to have that conversation. Brown would be in the running for sure, but I think it's too early. I think he's here next year. I do. I think it would take a really good situation for him to want to walk away from here. He's a winner. He wants to win. I mean, this guy's won 6 Super Bowls. He wants to see it through here, and he genuinely addressed this 2 weeks ago. Loves living here. Wife and kids love living here. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion he leaves. So we might want to table the next OC conversation until a later date.
I love the mighty Ken Matthias. He's as nuts as I am. He's always looking ahead to next year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you and Bono have a lot in common there, Ken. All right. Final prediction here. What do you think? I mean, again, the spread in this one is 7. Patriots are favored by 7. The over-under is 40.5. Well, let's go a little deeper here. A couple plays you like in this game potentially, and do they cover? How do you see it playing out ultimately?
27-13, so they'll cover the 7-point spread. I wouldn't go near the over-under. That seems like it's right on point. 27 plus 13 is 40. 40.5 is the over-under.
John Sapochetti, rather, math major.
Oh, yeah. I'm the one guy on Sports Talk Radio that's very comfortable talking math. Everybody else is like, I didn't think math was something we had to discuss doing Sports Talk Radio. Love talking math. It's actually was my best subject in school. That's not saying much. It's a very low bar. But I think that they're going to win 27-13. It's going to be one of the classic Patriot wins. And that's what I'm kind of getting the vibe the last couple of weeks of wins on the road. Again, not great opponents, but they kind of just built along the first quarter, second quarter, and then dominated the second half. And it was a situation that felt like an old Patriots win, right? Like it's comfortable. It's not necessarily a blowout, but they're in control of the game and they're taking care of business. I think it's going to be much the same way, 27-13.
Yeah, I like that score as well. I think you're on the money there with that score. This Cleveland team's good enough to score a couple times anyway. Mm-hmm. But I think you bring up a good point about how the Patriots tend to build up as the game goes on and pull away in the second half. And I think they're going to do the same thing here. Ken checks back in. What are you looking most forward to? Patriots O-line or Browns D-line, who has the advantage? I think Cleveland has the advantage, man. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on this Patriots offensive line to play well today. They're going to need to have a good day at the office. If they struggle today, again, I've said this in my previews as well. This game is going to be much tighter than people want or think.
It could be, sure, because of that defense. That's an elite defense. If they're playing at a high level, they're going to make you work for your points. They just don't do it on the road. Now, is that just something that's out of the ordinary, or is it a case that their first 2 road games were against a healthy Baltimore team with Lamar Jackson, who could put 40 on the board against anyone, and the Lions, who scored 34 against them? I mean, that may be the case that those 2 teams are going to score at home against any defense.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. All right. Ken, thanks for checking in, man. Really appreciate it. John, great job as always, my friend. Enjoy the game, and looking forward to catching up with you to talk about it afterwards. But thanks again for taking the time, my friend.
Anytime.
All right. That will do it for this week's episode of the Patriots Pulse Preview Show. For John Sapichetti, I'm John Sirianides. We will be back with you next week to preview the Atlanta Falcons game. Until then, enjoy the game today. Peace.